So can we switch off how do you switch on? So the topic of my talk, as it says, is Anaphora language acquisition and pathology. And unfortunately, it should be lower. So when people are interacting, they to have an adequate discourse, they need adequate reference or coordinates in space and time. And those who use social thinking and who know how to use theory of mind to understand the other, he should use relevant data and analysis. Children develop such an ability with age. People who lose this part of their cognitive abilities lose the main ranges of it, or even less. All of us know that we have speech zones that are already there very early, almost from when we are born. And this picture shows that a 3 months old infant who is listening to normal speech gives activation in the speech zone. While if you present the same speech sample, which is reversed, you don't have activation in this zone, which shows that very many things are already inborn. We won't discuss genetic basis for this, but still it's very early there. Of course, romantic times have passed, and no one who's insane will talk now about true localization or lateralization. It is not so anymore, unfortunately. The time has passed. Still, nobody deleted the idea of speech zones, either Broca's or Wernicke's. However, it's much more strict than we used to think about it. So our project was aimed at investigating the interaction between syntactic rules and discourse rules in phenomenal resonance. We carried out experiments with different groups of subjects. And the purpose was comparing results obtained from adult subjects without speech or cognitive pathology with those small children acquired their first language, because they are still children, and language pathology data. We also used a group of children who had specific language impairments, so that's unlikely. And of course we used patients with aphasia. However, I have to comment it in the same way as Professor Deverson did. You cannot have any statistics with pathology. I will present some, but I myself will not believe it, because all the patients are absolutely different. Even when you have the same diagnosis, that doesn't show you anything. Other projects that were carried out by our group earlier show that we have 8 Broca's patients. Only 2 of them matched each other. All the rest were absolutely different. So no use looking into the diagnosis, into the title. It doesn't show you anything a lot. So the methodology that we used, we took from our partners from the Netherlands, from Utrecht Institute of Linguistics, and the experimental data that will be shown has cross-linguistic validity as we know. So the theoretical background of that is the following. In linguistics, in modern linguistics, there are theories that are explaining rules of assigning patterns to pronominal elements, mainly based on syntactic notions. Especially this trend comes from Chomsky and his followers. Of course, there are different views. However, all of us know that pragmatic factors have a very profound role in it. So we cannot stand on the platform of syntax without forgetting that pragmatic factors play primarily from this important role. For instance, the connection between congestive stress and phenomenal resonance was noted already in the 70s, and much later, of course, and the project that I present was an attempt to look closer at pragmatic factors in phenomenal resonance, investigating interactions between syntax and pragmatics. So we use seven types of constructions. First, these were constructions with the personal pronoun he or she. These were sentences that consisted of two matrix clauses. The first clause had two possible antecedents for a pronoun, one being the subject of the sentence, and the other the direct object of the same sentence. The second clause had a pronoun which could be either the subject or the direct object of the sentence. It's quite well known that under neutral conditions, the pronoun which has the subject role selects the subject of the first clause for its antecedent, while the direct object pronoun refers, in a way, the direct object. So here are some of the experimental instructions that were used. First Bill hit John, and then he hit Mary. First Bill hit John, and then Mary hit him. However, the pattern was reversed if the pronoun was under congestive stress. Like first Bill hit John, and then he hit Mary, which is the congestive stress type of the sentence. First Bill hit John, and then Mary hit him. So him is a congestively stressed agent. In these sentences, pragmatic factors define which of the two nouns is to be interpreted as the antecedent. Dutch data for these four constructions were used in experiments that were carried out in Utrecht, and we did all we could to have as similar a scheme as we could. So, did I miss something? So, syntactic factors influencing the choice of the antecedents were tested in the set of stimuli where the choice of the antecedents is syntactically unambiguous. So here are some examples. First the woman and the girl were singing, and then the woman washed her. So whom did she wash? Did she wash? In the Dutch experiment also a reflexive was tested. First the woman and the girl were singing, and then the woman washed herself. In the Russian experiment, the type of the stimuli shown in 3D was not used, as in the literature it was shown that it is unambiguous for all types of the subject, which is the subject which is clear for Russian speakers. In Russian as well as in Dutch, understanding of difference between reference assignment to personal pronouns and reflexive was tested in the following instructions. First the woman and the girl were singing, and then the woman saw her dancing. First the woman and the girl were singing, and then the woman saw herself dancing, for instance, in a mirror. For languages such as, for instance, English and Dutch, this construction is traditionally analyzed as exceptional case marking construction, which is a term. In Russian, no direct analogous or analog to ECM construction is available. Instead, a construction with participle in the instrumental case is used. Сначала женщина и девочка пели, apart from, are now really a constant issue. The use of this construction increases the complexity of the syntactic structure, while the choice of antecedents remains still unambiguous. So here are some experimental constructions to sum up what we have. So we have constructions with unstressed subject, which is US, unstressed object, stressed subject, stressed object. Construction B, which is the principle B in the binding theory. Construction ECM, one variant, and ECM, the second variant. So what did they get from Dutch? Adults interpreted sentences of all types as expected without any difficulties. Children correctly interpreted sentences of the type 1, but failed to interpret pronouns under contrasted stress. However, they correctly distinguished personal pronouns as reflective of a certain type, but gave chance answers for the sentences of another type. Data from language acquisition in Dutch point at the existence of significant interaction between syntactic and pragmatic factors in the interpretation of pronouns. Dutch aphagic patients show patterns similar to those of children. So we have 4 groups of children. You can read it. So these are Russian adults, Russian children without speech or pathology, Russian-speaking agrammatic aphagic patients, and Russian-speaking Anaphora children. All of them, of course, were native speakers of Russian. So we had a booklet that contained different pictures. And the subjects had to look at them and to match the pictures with other pictures where they had to show who are the actors and who is influencing whom. So we have 13 sentences of each construction type and 13 pillars. So statistically the material was adequate. And so what do we see? The contrast of Russian versus Dutch, which has, as I said, cross-linguistic differences. Constructions of type B and ECM had influenced wonderfully. They didn't cause any difficulties for adult normal speakers. However, the results of the other types were not so straightforward as for the Dutch adults in their native language. And you see what's the difference. I simply do not want to use my time to read it out. And here we have a table that shows some statistics, depending on what size of material was presented and how it was analyzed. And the difference in general, the difference between Dutch and Russian data can have the following explanation. As we all know, Russian is a three-word order language, which is significant in this case. The role of contrastive stress is not as prominent as in English or Dutch, as its functions cooperate and even overlap with those of word order permutations. So we have extra tools that help us to decode the text. Russian has an independent device like ta, tot, tie, which you do not have in Germanic languages, which play their role. Finally, to keep the experiment in line with the Dutch scheme, we use only the SVO type of sentences, because otherwise we could not compare the data, which also has its own role, of course. However, the general tendency concerning the difficulty of construction is the same as for Dutch, which could easily be not so. Constructions SS are the most difficult, and constructions of the type US, unstressed subject, appears to be the easiest. And the tendency is usually attributed to the fact that the subject is more prominent in the discourse and is more difficult to shift a reference from it. Russian children. All of us know that Roman Jakobson proposed regression hypothesis, which describes parallels between language acquisition and language regression. There are different, very contradictory data concerning it. I myself read at least two American dissertations that deleted the idea totally. Still, it is on the scene. So, patients with frontal area damage and grammatical patients, they experience severe production problems, but do not have, mainly they do not have substantial perception disorder. However, as it was established already, grammatical patients do have problems with speech perception. Perception rules that are lost by aggravated patients are those that are acquired late by children. Since these rules are the first to be lost, they must be the last to be acquired, of course. So, and it was established, what you see in the screen. So Russian children were divided into two groups. The first was 4-year-olds and the second was 5-year-olds, which appears to be a relevant distribution because they differ quite substantially. 4-year-old children have different results, give us different results than the 5-year-olds. The older children improve substantially, so even 1 year gives much to their ability. Results for Russian are as following. And we can see it. Unfortunately, I have no time to interpret it, but still it's evident that the difference is clear. Russian aphakic patients were also divided into two groups depending on how cruel or how heavy was their pathology. Patients with severe rheumatism displayed low number of correct answers in the groups that are shown in red. The rate of correct responses to these phrases also correlated with reactions to logical stress stimuli. And again, it all depends on the degree of pathology. And again, I have no time to comment it, but here are those groups. And the figures differ. So, in both younger children and aphakic adults, a clear correlation between mastering syntactic and pragmatic groups in pronominal reference was shown. In addition, a correlation was found between the degree of disorder, as I said, and their performance in the experiment, which mirrored the difference in performance between 4- and 5-year-old kids. Of course, I'm not naive, and I understand that when we get more statistics, it can be shifted a bit. But the tendency we see we also have SLI children, as I said, and what I can tell you about it is here, and the main idea is that SLI children are developing in an abnormal way, and they are very, very individual. We have the same data concerning the other tests for mental lexicon organization. The main difference between SLI children and normal children is that almost each of the SLI kids has its own way. So they are not lagging behind the normal kids. They are using different algorithms, and these algorithms are different between the individuals. So this is the main idea. And I conclude that our projects have shown that despite certain cross-linguistic differences that are evident, the influence of pragmatic status on pronominal reference are strong. Parallels existing between language acquisition and language disorder were shown to be important for the pragmatic phenomena that were observed in the research. And the connection between pragmatic and syntactic rules governing pronominal reference found both in language acquisition and language disorder shows that rules of Anaphora cannot be reduced to syntactic devices. And I'm grateful to my colleagues, Chernigovskaya and Olga Farnasevich, who were my PhD students, and Maria Prakovskaya, who is a neuropsychologist in the Institute of the Human Brain, and who gave us the patients and evaluated them. And thank you for your patience. Yes, you do.
Question. What was the age of children with speech and language? The second one, maybe you mentioned about the type of speech and language disorder. Because the results...
You mean the kids?
Yes.
It's a difficult question. Because the Russian logopeds do not believe in the existence of SLI children. I met it dozens of times. Because when yes, this is what they tell me. Yes, I'm not sure that I can give you the answer that will satisfy you. Let me start with. So our colleagues here in Russia say we have never ever met a kid that has only language disturbances. All of them also have either memory deficit or attention deficit or something else, or intellectual blowing, something plus to language data. So we have chosen, together with the logoped, of course, those who were the most linguistically disturbed or the most linguistically irrelevant from the whole group, which was taken from a special kindergarten which works with such children. So unfortunately we do not have relevant enough tests to distinguish SLI children in that population, because there are very poor age-matched tests for memory and for attention using Russian language.
Especially for preschool children.
Yes, of course. They are worse.
Yeah, and one more question. How many years do they have a special pedagogical support or correction?
The children that we got,
yes.
the 4-year-olds it was their third year in the special kindergarten, the 6-year-olds mostly the second.
Okay.
Yes, but we took the naivest of all. Thank you.
How often did you see the Russian database demonstrative from both sides that you mentioned? All over or just sometimes?
Sometimes, but it was not a rare thing. I cannot give you the figure, the statistic, but if you are interested, I can teach it from the material. So,
and Dutch didn't have that? And Dutch they didn't have that?
I suppose not, but not
German does have a very similar device. You can
Dutch also has the same type of product present, yeah, and it works as in drums or as in Dutch. It probably just happens so that they.
But it was the data. The Dutch data comes from Abruptly and the group. But everybody continues this work, so I'm not sure that it is still relevant from the day of different data now. However, I haven't read about it. Thank you.